Can you tell me who you are in less than 10 seconds? Have you outlined your values in a way that helps shape who you are and help guide who you are throughout your life? Do you have skills, behaviors, um, character traits that you have mistakenly placed on yourself as your identity, as who you are? We're going to talk about all that in this video. Most men wear masks. My name is Eric Wayne Wade. I meet with men every week just like you to break the silence, unmask, and embrace vulnerability to rise into the men we were created to be. So if you've if you've watched any of my old videos, or if you listen to me very often, you hear me talk about the masks that we as men often wear. And today I'm going to talk about the mask of the performer and the times in my life that I've placed that as that I've worn that mask. I've worn it out. I've worn out every mask. I talk about the stoic. I talk about the joker, provider, protector, performer. I've worn them all. Um, they've all exhausted me quite a bit, which I shared a little bit in my last video. This is going to kind of follow that format. Um, I got a lot of good feedback from you guys on it, so I'm gonna try to crank a few more of these out like this. So, performer. I remember I couldn't have been older than 3 or 4, and we had this plastic blue chair that had, I believe, metal legs, and I would turn it over upside down, and in front of the adults, I would uh, I would pretend that I was a preacher, and I would yell something about God, like in an angry way, and then at the end of it, I would say, "Give me some money, give me some money," and the reaction was, of course, laughter, and adults, look at this kid, they'd say something like that, and a few things really stand out about this. Number one, my views of church early on were very troubling. An angry man, and then at the end, saying, "Give me some money, give me some money." That's one thing that stands out to me. Kind of funny, but not funny at the same time. Another thing is, I'm doing this skit, and in the skit, I'm saying something, and then I'm asking for something in return. That's very literal in the skit that I'm doing, but also in my earliest form of being able to communicate, I'm 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 expressing a performance in order to get a response, in order to get a laugh, in order to get attention. So I'm saying, here's my performance, give me some laughs, give me some attention, show me my value, show me my worth. Fast forward a few more years, family get togethers. My mother's side of the family, very festive and always had dances for celebrations. I remember being a little kid, um, trying to dance and get the attention of the adults. Fast forward a few years, there was a big song, early 90s, called Hard Working Man by Brooks and Dunn. And I remember my sister's softball team, after a game, going to the Pizza Hut in town. I don't know if I played the song on the jukebox or somebody played it. The song came on, and as soon as it came on, I get up in the middle of this Pizza Hut and I start dancing and lip syncing this song, and it becomes this big deal. So much so to where, I mean, as an adult, certain people I would see throughout my life that was there would bring that up and just laugh about it. very musical. I loved music, and I loved writing. I found that I could put words together at a very early age. As soon as, I mean, I could pick up a pencil, I was writing some kind of song, later poems, and then songs again, and just I could put words together that you could tell were a little different, stood out some. Um, Probably in fifth grade. I don't know if it was like popcorn week, popcorn day. It had to have been a week, but we had different projects that we had to do throughout the week that was about popcorn. So we had like these arts, like these crafts that we had to do for popcorn, and then you could kind of do what you wanted to do. And I wrote a song about popcorn, and my teacher had me go around to every class down the hall and do this song about popcorn in front of everybody in all these classes. And then they also in the hall, they put the words to the song like on this big paper on the halls. So when you go from class to class, you see the words to this popcorn. Ridiculous, but it was performance, and it was attention. And so I gravitated towards things that I found some success in, that gave me attention in the right ways. Performance. Again, being musical, I picked up the guitar. I had friends that listened to bands, and they would play guitar a little bit. And so I'm thinking, okay, I should probably start doing this. So I'd pick up the guitar, I would learn things. I'd get to where I'm so committed when I'm learning something that I would learn fairly quickly, and stand out in front of the my friends. If they liked, you know, a band, a big band at the time was Bush, and so I would learn a few Bush songs, and it'd be kind of impressive. And um, I would take, if they liked a band or liked the song of a band, I would take it a little bit further, and I ended up becoming more knowledgeable about the subject than what they were. Mortal Kombat was big when it first came out. I got to a point to where I dominated that game. I wasn't a big gamer. I had a Sega Genesis. There were probably three games that I played. Madden, Mortal Kombat, and NBA Jam were like the three games that I always played. I got to a point to where nobody could really touch me in those games, but Mortal Kombat was like the really cool one at the time. So I learned the fatalities, I learned all these moves, and performance. I liked the attention that it gave me. Continued with music, but at the same time, I would dabble in sports. I wasn't the most athletic, but I found a way to kind of fit in with sports. I would play basketball every day after school. Wasn't the most, by any means, the most athletic guy on the court. Probably at most times the least athletic guy on the court. I'm not a big guy. I'm not tall, and so you look at me and you're thinking, not very much of a threat is going to come from this guy. But there were points in games eventually where the other team would be like, "Hey, somebody stop this dude from shooting over here. He's made four in a row from that spot. Can we keep this from happening?" Um, those kind of things gave me validation, um, gave me the attention in a good way that I wanted. Played baseball for a few years. I could hit okay. I was so slow, so slow. That didn't last. Football. I become of the age of playing football in the town that I was in. Football was huge, so this was a big deal for us in seventh and eighth grade. I had hit a growth spurt before the other guys my age, so I was a starter. I was an offensive lineman. We had a running back that was very good. Um, if I said his name, you would know who he is. That's how good he is. He went and played in the NFL. And so we were known for the team to of being the team that nobody could really touch. Like nobody came close to us in any game, and I was a part of that, and so I enjoyed it. Now, my ninth grade year, everybody else caught up in size. And not only did they catch up, they got a lot bigger than me. So I was no longer starting, and football was no longer fun for me. So I leaned more towards music. Um, so I'd continue to play guitar, and I was getting to the point to where I wasn't just learning songs from listening to them, but I was now writing songs. And thankfully, around the time that I was losing interest in football, there was a group of guys forming a band who knew that I played guitar, and they asked if I wanted to audition for them. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to audition. Where's the audition? And the audition was BP gas station. We had a BP gas station in town, and they made me go in and get permission from the workers there to see if I could plug in my guitar and play and sing a song right there in the middle of the store, um, to audition for this band. And so I did, and they let me in. So for the next 4 years, the last 4 years that I was in school, that was that was it. That was it. These guys were older than me. We had the drummer; he was a year younger than me. But in my class, I'd separated myself from everybody in my class, and I'm gonna get to that and why that was in a little bit. Um, but I didn't care really about anything except for the music. So if you weren't if you weren't in the band, or if you weren't a part of celebrating or promoting this band, there really wasn't any connection that you would have had with me. Um, or if we dated, which I didn't date girls in my grade either. They were older for the most part, and um, I didn't have any connection with anybody in my class. But we put everything into this band to where we became known, and not just in our town, but in larger cities in the surrounding areas. And we got to do some really cool things. And I remember one day my mom came home from the store, and she asked me if I knew this kid. And I said, yeah, he's in my class. I know him. I know who he is. She said, he just asked me if you were famous. And I remember thinking how cool it was, how I thought it was so cool that there were actually kids that I went to school with that were wondering if I was famous. They weren't sure if I was famous. That blew my head up. And that kind of stuff motivated me to stay in the path that I was on. Um, we were featured in a promotional, national, I mean, really a huge magazine for the genre of music that we were in. They had this deal where in one edition they put different artists onto the CD and gave a little description about it, and it was in that month's edition, and we gotten picked to be a part of that. Another big another big win for us, and I put everything into that, and it became my identity. So much so that if I see somebody now that I haven't seen since, school, they're going to ask me, what am I doing with music? Hey, what are you doing with music these days? Because I made that a part of my identity. So I graduate high school. I mentioned that two of the, or three of the guys that were in the band were older than me. So they were already out of school. They were making the decision to kind of be more future minded and not focus on music anymore. And this crushed me because, I felt like this was it. Like we're putting everything into this. This is what our future is. And so I was really at a loss. I was able to move to a larger city, and in that city, people knew the band I was in. So I was able to pretty quickly um, fill in for bands, and then I eventually became a member of a local band. and they were excited to bring me on. They knew who I was. They knew the band I was in, and so they felt like it was a great thing to bring me on board. That was for a little bit, but while I moved to this town, I had to work, right? So I ended up getting this job, and I had no desire to work at this place. It was a sales job, but I was told that hey, they'll hire you. Just show up and they'll hire you. So I did, and they did, and I thought I was going to be here for maybe a week, maybe two, like until I just found something else like right away. Turned out that I was pretty decent at this job, and my manager started really pouring into me, and I started getting raises, and I started winning contests, and I started to be the person that people were kind of looking at, like, hey, who's this new guy? Like, he's a threat. Like, if he's making money, then I'm probably making less money, and it triggered that response that I like to get as a performer, and it was another method of performing, just a different performance in a different environment. And because of that, and because of um, the growth there that I had, I stayed for 14 years. I was there for 14 years. I didn't continue playing music. I quit for a long time. I was in and out of the music scene and really started to get into the corporate world and really wanted to um, put all my energy into that job and the people that were there. And it was another way to perform for me. So getting promoted, getting, becoming manager, having one of the best sales teams, being asked to go help launch another facility in another nearby town. All of these things I felt like were accolades that I needed, and I didn't know why. Like I didn't know why. So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I mentioned not really being associated with anybody in my class, and so through the years of kind of learning guitar, and specifically around the football years, I was in the friend group that I wanted to be in. I got a seat at the table. I got the invites to go hang out, but it was at the expense, it was at the cost of pretty much being the butt of the jokes. And to me, it was worth it. I felt like for a period of time, anyways. Because I'm around the people that you want to be around. And so if it means that, I'm the reason everybody gets a laugh at something, then I'll do it. I'm in the group. That's how I felt. And so there was this nickname that they gave me, and it stayed with me throughout all my years of school. I mean, it got to where a lot of people didn't even know my real name. They just knew this nickname. So they somewhere along the way they found out that um, my mother was Hispanic, so I'm Hispanic, and so they would call me Mex. And looking back, that's probably not the best name to call somebody that's Hispanic, but it was a name. It gave me an identity, and um, a lot of people knew me as that. What a lot of people don't know is Mex wasn't the original name. And so the original name was Fat Mexican. And because it was in a friend group, and I took it lightly, and I didn't, it didn't bother me at first because it was my friends, right? And I guess one day it did bother me, and it just started to really build. And and I blew up. I don't remember specifically who it was, but I remember blowing up. And I remember in that season of my life, I was really quick to lose my temper, and I was really quick to get in fights. I was really quick to throw the first punch. And I remember blowing up on somebody over this nickname, and that's how it turned from Fat Mexican to Mex. And as I quit playing football and I started playing music with guys that were older than me, I completely just separated myself from that group. Um, I didn't think much about it. I didn't think about the name. I didn't think, my mind was on the music. My mind was on these group of guys that I didn't have to question, if they were my friends or not. I mean, we were brothers. Let me tell you, to this day, we're still brothers. And all of my attention, all of my energy, all of my time went into that. So I didn't think about the Mex thing. I didn't think about how it originated. I didn't think about those people. I just thought about the music, the band, the performing. I loved the idea that Monday through Friday at school, some people had an idea of who I might be, but they didn't have a clue of what I was going to be doing on the weekends. How I was going to go places where people, they knew what I was a part of, something that I was creating that was a big deal. I loved that. Um, so the band breaks up. I lose that part of my identity. Fast forward 25 years, my nephew graduates high school. Now he graduated from the same school that I graduated from. And so I go to his graduation and I'm sitting there and I'm looking across this huge auditorium and I'm starting to see people that I haven't seen since I was in school. I never went back to any of the reunions. I didn't have a reason to. And I remember feeling this anxiety, this almost like a panic attack, and just feeling like, what is this? Like, why am I feeling this way? I haven't given these people any real estate in my head for the last 25 years. Why am I feeling this way? And for the next, I guess, 24 hours, I'm just in this funk. And I do some inner work and I kind of, the next morning I get up and I realize something that was major. And that was that music is not my identity. Music is not my identity. And for the first time in my life, really, or since I started playing music, I came to that realization. And it was through this experience. And what I gathered was music was a safe place for me. Music was a place where I could go and feel valued. I could go and I can feel safe. I could go and I could feel like people saw me for who I was. And I created this person in the music that I told myself, this is me. This is who I am. And I believe that. Um, but it wasn't who I was. It was something that I did. It was something that I ran to perform, to feel validation, to feel value, to feel worth. I am more than music. I am more than the music that I played. Were those times amazing? Absolutely. We still talk about it. Um, Great time. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but it's not who I am. It never has been who I am. So part of the exercises and work that we do in Mountain Men is we identify what our values are. Good thing is you don't have to go on this, soul searching journey. Oh, what are my values? You probably already know what your values are, but you probably haven't written them out. You probably haven't um, looked at them or given them much thought. You're just like, yeah, this is basically, who I am as a person. So one of the things we do is we identify our core values of who we are as a person. So one of the first things I asked in this video is, can you tell me who you are, in 10 seconds? 10 seconds isn't a lot of time. But the idea here is to only give information that's not a job title, that's not a skill that you're really good at. No, who are you? And the benefit of this is you bring out the best qualities of yourself that you want to show up in your life, um, in a way that show that these things are present in your life and who you are to your core. And so, one thing I would do is on a weekly basis, at the end of the week, I would look back and say, okay, in this past week, in my interactions, did I live out these values? Did I show up as the person, as the man that my values say that I am? Another thing you can do is write like a value statement. This can be some words from your values. It can be, something a little different from your values. But again, I use my values and my value statement to help remind me of what's important, to help me with some of the decisions that I might need to make. Okay, if I make this decision, is that in alignment with who my values say that I am? And so we do work to where we identify those values, and we kind of keep track of it, and not so much to where we log it every week, or I started out doing that, or we share with each other every week. We have, might be something we need to do more frequently, depending on what your group dynamic is like. It might be something that you want to do weekly. But to give you an idea of what it looks like, I'm going to show you my values. So from top left down, my first number one priority in my life, my top value is my spiritual health. I find that if I do not devote daily time in my spiritual practices, that none of this really works out. None of these other values are attainable for me if I'm lacking in my spiritual health. So that's at the top. Below that is my family. I've got to make my family a priority. I've got to make sure that they are receiving the best version of me. If my spiritual health isn't in check, my family is not going to get the best version of me. Growth. I don't want to stay stagnant. I don't want to be the same person every day. I don't want to be the person I am today 5 years from now. I want to be someone that's continuously growing, getting stronger, getting better, being more knowledgeable, so I can help those around me. So I can have a positive impact. If you go back to the top right, positive impact in every situation. I want to leave every situation, every interaction better than I found it. That's important to me. It's important to me because I'm a leader. I don't always choose to be a leader, but I find that in most gatherings and most situations I find myself in, I tend to somehow stand out to be a leader. It's just always happened. So um, I take that with pride, and I use that to help clear a path for others to become the best version of themselves. And that's part of my service to others. I care for others as I would care for myself. Those are strong words. Do I look at these every week and say, man, I'm on point? No, I look at these every week and I say, man, I really fell short here. My family didn't get the best version of me this week. How can I do that? How can I make that look better next week? I really didn't grow much this week. I was pretty lazy. I didn't help anybody this week. I was zero service to anybody. So those are my values. Another thing I created was this statement that says, I'm the man who builds value daily. I do not chase money. I create outcomes. I make clear decisions and stand by them. My emotions do not drive my actions. My family is supported by my leadership, and Mountain Men grows because I show up clean, consistent, and disciplined. These things help me stay grounded. So when I'm doing my own spiritual work, my own meditation time, my own prayer time, these things help remind me of who I am. I'm not a musician. I am a musician, but if I have 10 seconds to tell you who I am, okay, I'm going to tell you this. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a leader. I create space for powerful moments to happen. To me, all of that encompasses what I just said. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a leader. I create space for positive things to happen, for powerful things to happen. And so one of the things I do is, I lead Mountain Men. I have guided meditation sessions. I have great group sessions with guys. I lead worship. I create spaces for powerful moments to happen. I don't make the powerful things happen, but I create spaces where people feel safe enough to be open to transformation, to be open to something special happening, to be reflective. Um, I've been doing that for years before I even realized I was doing it. Being able to realize that that's a part of who I am has really helped. It helped me build purpose and a mission behind those things that I've been gifted with. You've been gifted with something. So I want to challenge you to look at your values, create a mission statement, look deeper than your job title, look deeper than what you're good at with your hands, whether it be mechanically, building things, whatever. Yeah, maybe that's a skill set that you have, but that's not who you are. Maybe you use that to do something greater, and that might be closer to who you are. If you need some help trying to figure out um, a way to identify these things, some practices, reach out to me. You can join the Ridge Collective. This is the work we do. So we get a lot of great feedback from people that do these practices, live them out. I love hearing success stories about people that have put these things into work, and they come back and say, um, "This is working in my life because I've put a focus on who I am, how I choose to show up, and what's important to me." So I hope you found this useful. I hope it spoke to you. I hope it wasn't too all over the place. And I hope you're able to put together some of the pieces to make some sense into the message behind this video. So we've all worn some type of mask, and we're going to continue to do so unless we realize why it is we wear it, why it is we reach for it, and who we truly are without the mask. When we start moving those things around, amazing things will happen in your life. You'll find more purpose, you'll find more meaning, and you'll find more peace. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.